Hello, my name is Brant Hunt. My channel simply is Discerning What is True. I'm doing the last installment of the book called Psychology and Kabbalah, which is chapter 54 called Divinity. The whole process of human beings is simply is that we must work out our salvation, um, unlike what the church teaches in some ways has actually misled people in their belief systems. Um, No, we must find out what we're all about here. And that takes many reincarnations to take place in order for us to do that. So the chapter is 54 called Divinity. Thank you for being here. And today is the last day of November of 2025. The dimensions of the psyche is contained in the wisdom-understanding-crown triad of Yuzara. Here's where the apex of the psychological organism touches the place where the three upper worlds meet. As such, it has access to the highest limit of the psyche, the central zone of the spirit, and the lowest level of the realm of imagination. This gives this place a special quality as it is where the light of divinity touches the psyche, giving it an insight into the world of the Sephirah. In terms of human experience, it shifts consciousness out of physicality through the ever-changing forms of the psyche into the deep space of the spirit and into eternity. Such a moment is granted to everyone at some point in their life. Some see it as a moment of profound illumination, others as a glimpse of what holds existence together. Yet others perceive it as an instance of self-realization. The image of pure consciousness symbolized by light comes directly out of the world of Zillah, spelled Azilut, through the Keter of Yuzara. Keter is the crown, or the crown of formation, to pass straight down the central axis of the psyche and into the self, where it is perceived by the spirit, soul, and body. Note here in this capitalization that spirit is capitalized, soul is not, and neither is body. Indeed, anyone who has experienced this divine connection, will realize that it is, in fact, always reflected there in the luminous mirror, end quote, of the psychological Sephirah. It is only when we rise up out of the dominance of the body and pass through the limitations of the personal and collective unconsciousness that we see the source of our illumination streaming down from the triad Banad, Keter, and Hoklon at the top of the psychological tree. And see, this whole idea of the tree, again, I've explained this before, is that the tree is not the tree of good and evil, but the tree of life. That's illustrated in Genesis, you see. All of us come here divided, you see, because the tree of good and evil is division within oneself. Okay, and that's in psychological remnants. A symbol for this level is the ever-opening eye, which is used to indicate the higher self. So it's again what I call a diagram at the very top. The very top, where the keter is or the crown is called I am. The two separate parts one being the right, this is the divine feminine, and the other side is the masculine. Is between it is union with God. So this piece this brings it. You see how this comes all the way to the top as the elimination of simply is union with God. It's no longer division. It's no longer a divided person. You see, it's unity with God. And in the next position down, we come this next major step down, is positioned with an Adam Katman or Katman. And below that, in the central pivot part, is called Know the Divine. As we continue down, it's realization after we go to the area of Know the Divine. And then this simply comes to the point of revelation or realization, I should say, first between the two, again, separate and bringing them together, brings realization. And then later it comes down again at a 45-degree, well, probably a 30-degree angle is revelation. And then another step down between the two, right and left, or the masculine and feminine, is holiness. And then at a 45-degree angle, coming from, again, from perspective, is a purpose in universe. But all before that is actually holiness, as I said earlier. But then there's another purpose, what we call purpose in universe. So you have purpose. You have a reason why you're here. Then we have the coming down to the point eventually to what we call last part here called the spiritual role. And below that is what we call destiny. And to that leads to soul and a self-individual fate. And the last part says coming is what we call the social status, which is the lower part, the ego and society. And then you have health, you have body, family, and you have instinct, and then you have incarnation. Not reincarnation, but incarnation. And the bottom part says simply the same as being I am, as it says up top. So the bottom of the tree reflects the same thing as the top of the tree. And so in this schematic drawing he has made here, so it's I am and I am at the bottom and I am at the top, meaning that you've actually completed the work that you're here for. So we go to the next session, simply is called ladder, which is what this is all about. Again, many names can be said about this. The schematic here will be looked at, or simply a comparison of the ladder. Here, the various rungs of individual development are set out. Each one of us has the option to climb it, but the choice is ours. The lower levels are under general laws and are subject to the slower and longer process of evolution, while the higher rungs are directly supported by providence. There are many incidents in which a person with a spiritual mission has been preserved in the midst of chaos by a peculiar set of circumstances. However, to be under heaven's protection, one has consciously climbed, it's past tense, climbed up the ladder to some degree. The living dead have to wait until the next lifetime. So he's revealing simply as the living dead. They're living physically, but they're dead spiritually. And again, this is from the author named Haleve. Seeing Kabbalistically, that is, this higher self where the three upper worlds meet in the watcher, that is the watcher over the self, where the three lower worlds focus. Between them is the Zaratud dot, which is knowledge, which not only veils the Zaratud light coming down from the crown, but conceals the Baraita Yasat, or the foundation of creation. Here too is the Ruh, R-U-A-H, HaKodesh, H-A-K-O-D-E-S-H, or the Holy Spirit, whose messenger, the Archangel Gabriel, acts as an indicator when the self wishes to address the self. Paradoxically, dot or knowledge is the dark curtain that hangs between a person and their Lord, end quote. Traditionally, this is the divine name given to Baku of Azilla, through which the self is expressed in conjunction with the temporal of the spirit and the keter of the psyche. Together these compose a cosmic and divine communication point with the crown of the psyche. As such, they have the deepest effect upon the unconscious in that they are the ground bed of the psyche's inner reality. Without these two upper levels, touching the psyche's life is crude, petty, and purposeless. People who deny these higher dimensions find themselves in a terrible dilemma. Nothing makes sense. Of course, it doesn't make any sense because they don't understand. They don't understand what purpose they are here for, you see. So it doesn't make any sense. That's why they pursue all these things in the physical world. But it doesn't give you everlasting peace at all. Oh, it may give you some type of peace, but it won't be lasting. Everything is accident. Death is the end. So he says everything is an accident. Death is the end, and their existence is pointless. An example of this was the brilliant physician who believed the psyche was a product of the brain. He feared madness, death, because he saw God as a human projection. For him, there was nothing beyond ego, consciousness, or the grave. Such a position is remote from the light of Azillah, and in what some call the, quote, outer darkness, end quote. That's mentioned in scripture too, because he throws them back out. Probably this would be in Revelation. I'm guessing that. So he said this word outer darkness. Kind of a scary thing, isn't it? At the upper ends of the scale, those who rise to this highest triad of the psyche and bring about the union of Hokum and Vanal, or the sephira of revelation and reason, there is the direct contact with the world of Zillah as they reach Keter of Yazara. This final process unifies the psyche and brings the spirit and divinity into conscious relationship. Such an exalted state is called being anointed, in parentheses, as grace descends and permeates the individual. The meaning of becoming anointed is that whoever reaches this stage of integration attains the condition of full earthly capital self, that is S-E-L-F, realization. So it's personal. It is said that there always has to be one human being walking the earth who is conscious at this level while being in the flesh. Yeah, I would think that's true because I know that Phil Lang is probably the only individual on this planet who's done this. That is who I talk to. According to one tradition, everyone will go through this experience at some time in their journey of evolution, although only a few will be publicly recognized, like the Buddha and Jesus of Nazareth. Many mystics have left hints of attaining this sublime state. Polonius said, quote, this is Plotinus, this light, quote, this light is from the Supreme and is the Supreme, end quote. The Sufis call the person who holds this position the Katab, K-A-T-U-B, or axis of the age, end quote. And this is for good reason, for they are, at that moment, the pinnacle of incarnated humanity and is contact with the divine through the crown of their psyche. Figure 57 is called Penultimate, spelled P-E-N-U-L-T-I-M-A-T-E. In this point, or in this print, he shows that Dante and his guide behold the gates of the divine, while the angelicals circle as they cry, holy, holy, holy. These angels, however high, are not permitted to enter the realms of the divine. Only human beings can do that, or do this. Here they have the choice to go through and unite with the absolute or remain within existence and return periodically to earth to assist in mankind's progress. There are four great journeys. The first is descent from the divine down into matter. The second, that of development up through the world of the soul or psyche, into that of spirit. The third is the periodical return through reincarnation, either to evolve further or carry out one's destiny mission. The final journey is either to ascend as a self-realized individual or be part of a soul group that at the end of time comes back to its place in the being of Adam Catman before the ultimate resurrection in the union with the Absolute. This is from Dore's, D-O-R-E, illustration in the Divine Comedy from the 19th century. To attain this divine level of consciousness, it is said takes either many lifetimes, of course it does, many of them, an intense burst of physical, psychological, and spiritual effort of an act of grace, let me start it over. It said it takes either many lifetimes, an intense burst of physical, psychological, and spiritual effort, or an act of grace. However, not all who seek this goal are genuine in their motive. Not a few, including at least one Roman emperor, believed that they were divine. These people, in Jungian, that is Jung's terms, are often possessed by the archetype of the deity, which is expressed in the megalomaniac, in which Lucifer held self-worships its own image. On the other hand, it's quite possible for the good and true to receive illumination which comes from direct contact with divinity, which gives such people a strange quality of being suffish with light. Both Moses and Muhammad possessed such a radiance because of their encounter with God. Both had to cover their faces with veils. That is, close down the da and don a yasada persona so that people could relate to them. A trace of this divine quality is seen in certain children, nuns and monks, rabbis and Sufis who have a zilita connection. This radiance is also observed about happy pregnant women, people truly in love, and highly evolved individuals as the light of divinity descends from the psyche, that is from the psyche's crown, to penetrate and give the body a distinct luminous quality. Those who meditate sometimes acquire the sheen, as do deep contemplatives, and people who always try to act from the highest in themselves. This indicates just how potent a instance of divine awareness can be. Such an event is not as rare as it might seem. Most people, messed up here. Most people have had at least one encounter with the divine. Many dismiss it as a trick of the light or the mind being in an odd state, but some see it for what was and is and shall be as one of the most memorable moments of their life when they saw that all is one. From a strictly psychological point of view, there is no way of defining such an experience. It is said that mysticism is a form of madness, but this cannot be the case because the mystic sees nothing but beauty, order, and purpose, whereas the psychotic usually perceives just the reverse. The insane may glimpse the upper worlds, but their perception is not the same as the mystic, who is disciplined, focused, and in control of the psychological tree, so that the shaft of divine light and cosmic winds do not blast their way through and disrupt the lower face of the psyche. This is the reason why the children of Israel were forbidden to go up the holy mountain. They were not yet developed enough to receive the holy radiance that rested upon the summit of Sinai, which represents the crown of the psyche. Here the fire or light of Zillah and the cloud, which is a mixture of the air and water of Bariah and Uzara, meet at the upper meeting place of the divine. Spirit and psyche, that is. The Lord said to Moses in Exodus chapter 19:21, quote, Go down, warn the people not to force their way through unto Yahweh, so as to look, for many of them will perish. End quote. However, it goes on in the next verse, quote, but let the priests, that is the priestess, come near to the Lord, although they must sanctify themselves, lest the Lord break forth upon them. End quote. In this free translation, two distinct levels are set out. There are the people who are as yet undeveloped, symbolized by the Israelites, meaning they're not spiritually aware, and the priests who possess some knowledge and experience. Even so, these initiatives still had to prepare themselves and be sanctified for encounter with the divine. This means a long and arduous training under competent direction. Here's where psychology reaches its limit, and the progression turns into spiritual discipline, which has quite a different order of criteria. The spiritual path is a deep commitment to the work of unification, as is called in Kabbalah. It must be done not for oneself, but the self. In union terms, the archetype of the self is a divine principle of unity. As such, it seeks to bring everything to a wholeness as it moves Adam Catman from innocence to experience. Sent down to be the lowest level of existence, we slowly make our way back up through all the worlds, life after life, in a journey of individualization that differentials and integrates the particular part of Adam Catman from which we have come. When everyone has fulfilled their destiny, tradition says the education of Adam Catman will be complete. In that ultimate realization of self, capital SELF, contemplation, gazer, and reflection will become one as God beholds God in the image of the divine. Then we are told all the Sephirah will fuse into a dot of total consciousness known by the holy name, quote, I am that I am. Until that time, let the work of unification go on. The last statement here of the chapter is simply, Amen, so be it. So that is the end of this particular book called Psychology and Kabbalah. Thank you for listening. All these will be in my YouTube channel, Discerning What Is True. And I wanted to share this information gladly because I need to learn it just as much as anybody else does, because I'm not there yet, you see. So thank you. Again, this is the last chapter of Psychology and Kabbalah, chapter 54 of Divinity, which is what we should be pursuing in our lives. Unfortunately, mankind hasn't come that way. We know that the people in the past have had it. We have what I would call people who actually have experienced God within themselves. But it's been a long time, you see. Some of it was in Egypt. Some of it was also in the areas of Mesopotamia. And some of it was also involved in the eastern part of probably we call Tibet, probably India long ago also. A lot of that demonstration was with the pyramids, which was a recognition of something deeper long ago. The last really elements of this was basically in Egypt, roughly 4,000 years ago. So thank you again for listening again today. Wish you well. Take care and have a great day. Thank you.